What's up, everybody? This is Nate of the Night Watch Variety. I just get sick and tired of saying the same thing all the time. This is Night Watch Nate, your host of the Night Watch Podcast. How's everybody been doing out there? You know, I've had my ups and downs lately. Today's alright. It's alright. I'm not feeling too horrible. Man, I just got done watching. I couldn't sit through the whole interview. It's like an hour, 40 minutes. And a large part of it was just this arguing back and forth like little school children between Piers Morgan and Kanye. I think that's how you pronounce his name. How about that Ye, huh? That guy is sure creating some waves out there in the Twittersphere, interwebs. He's an interesting character, you know. It's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly. I mean, he talks at times just like a megalomaniac, right? Like, what did he say? He can create a dinosaur from a femur bone or some shit.
I can make a dinosaur out of a femur, right?
And then he's a genius. You know, he's a lyrical genius. He's one of the, I think he said at one point during the interview that he's one of the top 5 writers in history. Okay.
I'm like top 5 writers in human history. So I really get into the power of words, and I feel very akin to Capote, Freud, Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci, more Matisse than Picasso.
So he's a little big on himself, but at the same time he'll bring up God a lot. So I mean, that's good. But God of the Bible, and I'm pretty sure he's into the God of the Bible because he's quoting scriptures now and then, and Old Testament figures, Moses, whatnot. If you believe in the true God and the character as revealed through the suffering servant of Christ, then you should be try to be kind of humble, right? But I've never had the kind of money that Ye, I think that's how you pronounce his name, that someone like Ye has to his name. So I can't pretend to sit here and preach that I wouldn't have a little bit of a big head also. At that point, God help your unbelief, because you got so much else to believe in, all your achievements, all that money in the bank.
Piers, how much money are you worth?
Not as much as you, sadly.
Exactly. So take my advice. Maybe you'll get richer.
I would love to take your business advice.
Why would I listen to you?
All your cars, yachts, mansions. You got all these other things to preoccupy your time and to, make yourself feel good about yourself, other than giving credit to God. So to hand it to Ye, he does do that now and then.
God does this to remind us that we are not God, because when you take people like Elon Musk and Bernard Arnault and Trump or Jack Ma, Putin, you take these people in their own space, in their own environments, we can start to feel like gods on earth, but we are nothing in comparison to God.
He makes some really good points. He's a deep thinker. Some of it's a little off the wall, He's brought up the Jew card. A lot of people love the Jew card.
Being that I'm an entertainer, I've been wronged so many times by Jewish businessmen.
Jews are in control of the world. It's always the Jews. Jews killed Christ. Although it was actually kind of the Roman system under the dictates of the Jewish priesthood demanding the death of Christ. So it's kind of a church-state relationship, interestingly enough. as it will be once again in the end times with the mark of the beast and all that. But yeah, those people get really hung up on the Jews. Now there are, even in my own family circle, I've heard the story several times now. There's a pretty little bird back there. My dad used to be in the music industry. Fun fact, his band used to be the Little People. Appropriate because he's a fairly small guy. Just in stature. I'm not saying anything more. He's got a big heart. What destroyed one of the key turning points of his music career was, well, for one, getting married and having a kid that kind of ran into conflict with his rock and roll lifestyle, with all these women, hanging all over him all the time. And, thank God he chose the right path, right? Not to be a deadbeat dad like most people would probably in this modern day and age in such a situation. The promise of fame and glory. And that's what's interesting is at one point he told me, this is my dad, he believes Satan actually came to him, right? You hear all these stories of like Bob Dylan saying that he serves the chief, the chief guru, whatever he calls him, of this world.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
With the with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
And he sings the song about you got to serve somebody, right? God or the devil. It may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. Bad Bob Dylan impression. I wasn't trying. It takes a lot to try, man. Vocal cords. But yeah, he actually had this encounter with this strange apparition, strange fellow. Showed up to him around a campfire one night and said, basically, serve me. It's kind of like one of those moments, Jesus in the desert, in which I think a lot of these pop stars actually have. There's a spiritual warfare that we don't realize. Just because we don't see it with our own eyes, we don't give any credit to the actual motives right behind a lot of these pop stars and these big-time production companies. Yes, ran in large part by Jews of that certain faith. But we don't give any credit to the spiritual warfare going on. There's a war on for men's minds. There's a war on for men and women's souls. But yeah, my dad actually, he told us this story, and it's kind of creepy. Like hairs on the back of the neck kind of thing. And it was right before he, was kind of about to make it big. He's actually signed up with Columbia Records. He had all these connections like the Eagles, Bob Dylan. He was in that little sphere, right during the glory days of rock and roll, I guess. And he used to hear the Eagles just down the street, I think, from him, Wisconsin, I think it was, practicing in their garage. And actually, another fun fact, I'm kind of touting my dad here, because he is, ever since he chose to be a real man, I guess, and take care of his family and his kids, 3 kids. He's done nothing but worked hard ever since, every day of his life. Like he says, he's hardly ever missed a day of work. Long hours, oftentimes working 2 jobs, overtime. Fun fact, he actually opened for the Beach Boys at one point, the Little People, and he was scheduled to, I think it was Ricky Valentine, the night that he died in the plane crash, La Bamba, they were scheduled to headline for him as well, so he was getting there. But at one point, right before his career, these windows really loud, one point before his career, he had this guy walk up to him just and the way he described it, he may have been, puffing on something, back in those days, you can't hold it against him. Pretty much everybody was, but this figure just kind of like appeared out of nowhere in the dark, and he said, basically, serve me. So it's almost kind of like one of those Robert Johnson, crossroads moments. And whether he knew it or not at the time, and I think it probably took him a little while to piece things together, but thankfully, I think he made the right choice, and didn't just completely, wasn't unfaithful to his wife and his family, and, didn't pursue that rock and roll lifestyle, which, for a lot of young musicians just ends up in ruin, right? A lot of them OD, die in different circumstances. But at one point, the Jew card, and the reason I bring that up is because, yes, they are very prominent in the industry, in the entertainment industry, in Hollywood. And even for my dad, at one point, which really sunk their career, was they're getting ready to sign up for a record label or get something going. And they were meeting with the execs of, I think it might have been Columbia Records. And one of their band members stupidly made a mistake about Jews, or said something about Jewing, like that common phrase. Not so much common anymore. When I was a kid, it was common. Don't be a Jew, like with your money, stingy. He made a phrase like that, and one of the execs in the meeting was Jewish. And that's basically was the end of that. And so, yeah, do they have a, compared to the population, do they have a, overly represented demographic within all of these industries? What is going on here? Oh, okay. Yes, they do. Does that mean they rule the world? No, not necessarily. There's some bighorn sheep. Bighorn sheep, just another common sight in Colorado. Three guys, aren't there? What's up, fella? There's a bunch of babies. Gotta go up the hill. It's pretty cool. A bunch of people gathered back there. I thought it was an accident at first. People out enjoying the fall weather and the wildlife. Yeah, we get a lot of bighorn sheep in the canyon here. So yes, do Jews have a disproportionate influence on the industry? Yes, like Ye brought up. Now, does that mean that Jews rule the world necessarily? No. I think in general, like the Jewish people are very intelligent, and a lot of them are lawyers, and a lot of it's just it's kind of like Asian people, right? Chinese people. They're not stupid, right? They're gonna get their especially the wealthy. They're gonna get their kids, the best education. They're not gonna put up with crap. They're gonna get those kids on the right path, from an early start, because they're very competitive and they're very intelligent. In general, right? This is just a generalization. This is not every case scenario, obviously. Now, and are certain other demographics really messed up? Like Ye brought up a lot about the broken families, the dads that leave the family, and how that destroys the whole family unit for the black population. Exactly. Are they, for the most part, on welfare? Yes, a lot of them are on welfare. Does that give you the incentive to really try to strive for success in life? Not so much, right? If you're comfy, if you got everything given to you, if you got your food, if you got your shelter, in general, you're not gonna try as hard, the way I see it. If you're not given those from a strong fatherly influence, if you're not given those work ethic from an early age, what are you gonna do? You're gonna chase after success has a lot of, and I'm speaking as a white boy here, I know that, but, the gangster lifestyle, it's just based on what I've observed, okay? You want all this bling, you want all these cars, all these women, success, fame. Well, how are you going to get it if you don't have a work ethic? So you're going to try to take some cheats, some shortcuts, and you're going to pick up drug dealing and any other means that you can to get those things, right? That you can't otherwise get by hard work. So anyway, the Ye interview, it was fascinating. It's a little obnoxious. I mean, that Piers Morgan, I think the funniest part of the interview was when Ye was just making fun of Morgan's accent, which is the exact same thing I think to myself every time I see these like news anchors, these different American news agencies with their prissy little stick up the arse British accents trying to tell us all how America should be ran, right?
Let me go to the next furore, which has been around you in the last couple of weeks, which is your attacks.
Is that British for theory? Is that British for theory? What's theory, bro? Is that British for theory?
You actually have quite a good British accent.
Like, go back to your own country, you redcoat. Your kind of like authoritarian mindset is the reason we created this country. Go read your history, bud. Who you talking to? Right, boy? Like he kept calling Piers Morgan boy. And he does have some good points. It's obvious that this cancel culture, and it's very slanted and racist, and how the black vote quote that he said, you don't talk about the white vote, right? Well, what's this black vote? You try to put black people in a box, and you got to vote a certain way, and it's true. But he does draw a lot upon, and I don't know if he's just doing this like in spite of or whatever, but he does draw a lot upon the history of oppression towards his people, right? So, in a sense, I don't see that as so much of a liberating message, because you're just continuing to perpetuate the same past that you're supposed to move on from, right? You're supposed to liberate yourself, embrace the now. He's talked about, right? Well, I think another video that popped up on the Twitter sphere,
exploring ancient history and drawing deep wisdom from it, and at the same time saying we need to forget all of it. We need to put that behind us.
Absolutely. We need to forget it, and we need to move forward.
There is so much wisdom to draw from history.
Was him talking about how, we can't be controlled by the past or the future. It's all this present stuff. Well, if you don't know your history, bud, you are going to be controlled, right? You got to know where we came from. You got to know why we're here. You got to know the history of mankind. And as a Christian, which he claims to be, you got to know your Bible prophecy, right? In order to know the key figures involved in the control of the world towards the end times, right? All this stuff. The New World Order has been predicted. Mark of the Beast has been predicted. This corporatocracy, this corporate fascist system, Revelations 18 talks about the merchants of the earth, right? That are the powerful men of the earth, right? Interesting. Back then, written over 2,000 years ago, when the only thing that was known, the only kind of system was like blood lineage, kingships, right? Like royalty. These little god men, right, that had to claim right to the throne based upon their lineage and their bloodlines, basically. Back then, the Bible predicted that, you know what? The corporations, the merchants of the earth, would rule in hand in hand with the harlot, which is the false religious system, based, she set up shop in the Seven Hills in Rome, as all the Protestant reformers identified. The oldest, lasting, most blood on its hands, man-made institution on earth, the Vatican, the Holy See. So you have the harlot and the merchants in the end times, and they're going to enforce this no buy, no sell, right? And we already see all these movements working up towards this, right? And a large part of this is this cancel culture. This, I think it was at Chase. Some bank wasn't even willing to do business with Ye anymore because of his comments. And he has the family of George Floyd trying to sue him now for questioning, God forbid, like he says, right? A black man question anything. There's all these, I think you brought up the JFK, all these conspiracies. 15 different conspiracies for the death of JFK, but for George Floyd, for a black man to bring up an alternative other than the accepted narrative, that's out of hand.
So we can have 20 different perspectives on how JFK died, but us as black people, not only can we only vote one way, we're not allowed to have any other perspectives.
And on the autopsy reports, he was on fentanyl, I think it was, and he had his heart stopped, basically, and he had restricted veins. So there's all these complicating factors, otherwise known as like comorbidities, that caused this man's death. Now, was it excessive use of force by the police? Yes. But why can't people question things, right? There's always those things that you can't question, right? Like the efficacy of the vaccines, for instance, that you really have to question. And ask yourself, why can't you question them? Why are those topics out of bounds, right? Why are they culturally unacceptable? Now, it doesn't mean you have to agree with every, like flat earth theory out there. Reptilians running the control of the world and the world leaders. But you don't censor them. You don't silence them. Who cares? If in the end it's just faith in truth, right? In the end, truth will prevail. The truth will come out. The lies will be exposed. It just takes a matter of time. And in this information age, that it's a pretty small window, right? It doesn't take very much time for the truth to come out and for the lies and the propaganda to be exposed. And that's why they need these big tech platforms, all these controls, all these censorship algorithms to flatline the flow of information, kind of as Mark Zuckerberg put it.
How do you guys handle things when they're a big news item that's controversial? Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York Post.
Yeah, we had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. Basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful.
Yeah, they just need to buy themselves enough time to shove through the agenda, which they shoved through really fast. Patriot Act, great example. Thousands of page document already written up before the actual attacks on 9/11. They just kind of rushed it through in the days after. And you're unpatriotic if you don't accept the Patriot Act, right? It's like you're uncaring if you don't accept the CARES Act, right, guys? Cares. Government cares, guys. Super care about us. So yeah, despite all this history of past abuse, lies upon lies, we're supposed to overlook all that and just assume that they have our best intentions in mind, right, guys? Yeah, the people that have completely co-opted our government, the whole democratic process just being controlled, just game theoried as it is, We're supposed to just take them at word value and line up for your shots, right, guys? And your children as well, yes. CDC just ruling on regularly scheduled jabs for the kids in order to, shield the manufacturers from any kind of litigation in the future. That's how sick these people are. And paid off. Every one of those 12 on the board of the CDC, their lives depend on, right? Their salaries depend on the vaccine manufacturers. And they're all just fanatics. They're all just vaccine fanatics, as RFK Jr. put it in a recent interview. And of course they're going to vote. They're not going to have any conflict. There's no conflict there. Yeah, there is a conflict. It's the fact that you're getting paid by the same people that you're supposed to regulate. And I hope enough people have enough. There's some people that are standing up and saying, you know what, this is the last straw. I mean, I've been waiting for the last straw for a while now, as some of you probably have. When's the last straw going to come, right? Can't defend the innocents, right? It's all about this equity and minorities and the downtrodden, and we're all supposed to be these weeping hearts for, all these groups of minorities and these people that are being oppressed. What about the weakest members of society being subjected to unnecessary medical treatments? Is that good enough, guys? The innocents, what the Bible calls the innocents, which in the biblical context, it was what really got under God's skin, metaphorically, was the sacrificing of the innocents to pass through the fires of Moloch. Yeah, the Baal worshippers that would sacrifice innocent children to appease false gods. And in a sense, who are the gods today in this context of the merchants of the earth, Revelations 18? The Pfizers, GlaxoSmithKline, all these major, again, in a recent interview with RFK Jr., I think it's twice the amount of lobbying that the Big Pharma does.
What you have is an industry which is now the largest industry in the history of the world and most profitable. It's now more than oil. For most of my life, the oil industry was the biggest industry and wielded the biggest clout on Capitol Hill. But that's now dwarfed by pharma. Pharma has more lobbyists on Capitol Hill than there are congressmen, senator, and Supreme Court justices combined. It gives, I think, double in lobbying contributions than the next largest lobbying group, which are which is oil, and then I think it's something like 3 times what military contractors give Congress.
And they've got everybody paid off. They've got the politicians paid off. They've got the media paid off. They've got the regulatory bodies paid off. And it's pure evil. I mean, Pfizer, for instance, has paid out the largest settlement for lying, just blatantly lying about its product in the past. And we're supposed to just continue believing them, right? It was the speed of science. That's their latest cop-out excuse for not testing the transmission after people were injected. Despite all the lies, I put a short out recently about Sesame Street on CNN Town Hall, literally pressuring little kids with this guilt complex, right? These little levers that they use. This is not just about you, Timmy. I'm using Timmy. I like Timmy. That's just a fun name to say. This is not just about you, Timmy and Tammy. This is about protecting all of your loved ones. Yes, you don't want grandmother to die because you weren't protected. Right, Timmy? Because you didn't take that little pinch in the arm It's just a little pinch. You can trust us. We're your parents. We're the adults. We're the experts. We're the white coats. We're the government. We're here to protect you. It's just a little pinch in the arm, Timmy. And this will keep your granny, Grammy, and Grampy alive. You don't want them to die, do you? Look at the sick, psychopathic. Like, if these people had the chance, and they're probably guilty of it in the past, just nobody will ever hear of it, all their crimes, they would, in a heartbeat, lure a little kid into a creeper van with some candy and do unmentionable things to that kid, and you'll never see that kid again. These are the mentality of these sick psychopaths, to exploit and manipulate the emotions of little kids, knowing, right, from years and years of marketing, decades and decades of marketing, that kids are the most susceptible, easiest target audience to sell a product. And that's why so much is, why do you think they want every kid on a smartphone right now? Right? They're the easiest exploitable demographic in society. And if the kid doesn't have the money, who do you think he's going to get the money from to get what the kid wants? The parent, right? Because the parent so loves the kid. Got to give Timmy everything he demands to keep Timmy happy. This little monster that's never happy because he's living in this culture. He's swimming in this cesspool of consumerism that continually fills his mind with these lies that only what you have, only what you buy is going to make you successful and happy in life. And you, as an irresponsible parent, I'm getting up on my soapbox here, admittedly not a parent, but you as an irresponsible parent are going to allow your kid and his mind to be shaped in this way, making him one of the most unhappy people on the planet. If you look at other countries, third world countries, different parts of Africa, I've heard stories from people about how happy and easily, just satisfied, easily entertained people are in those countries compared to America. It's the merchants of the earth, people. The sorceries of the merchants. And if you don't have a greater faith in a meaning and a purpose in your life, if you're not taught at an early age that you are made in the image of God, right? And Ye brought that up in that interview as well. I like to hear those things. I'd like to see him reflect more God's character instead of just being kind of stuck on Ye and what Ye can do. What can Ye do for you? He thinks he's going to be this great conductor and leader of the people and all this stuff. He's obviously an influencer, but for good or bad, I don't know. I'm on the fence on that one. I guess I haven't studied enough about Ye. I don't really care too much about celebrity status. But yeah, if we teach our kids, they have a higher purpose, that God loves them, that this one life is not all that there is, right? There's something greater to live for. And they have meaning. That's the main thing. It's this nihilistic, materialistic, secular culture that hollows out any kind of little any place in your brain. There's been studies that there's like the God part of the brain that needs God. Well, what do you do if that part of the brain is starved, right? You'll search for other things to fill that void, that God void. And merchants are happy to make every promise of, if you notice the commercials, it's not about selling the product, it's about selling this happiness, and it's always about like family or different products, it's about like getting women or fame, or it's all about me, right? iPhone, iPad, I this, I that. They try to fill that void, but it's an empty promise. And these are idols, that they don't speak. They're just inanimate objects, and we're worshiping these things basically as gods in the biblical context. You know, these devices and these toys and these fancy cars and everything that's going to change your life for the better. You know, the only thing that will really change your heart, your mind, and give you peace that will surpass the peace of this world is the Messiah, the Savior of this world, the Prince of Peace. In any case, it was an interesting interview. I don't know if I'd recommend watching it all the way through. I almost got all the way through it, but that was just because I was doing other things. I don't have time these days to sit there and watch. In particular, people bicker back and forth like children, but it was entertaining. But here's a guy who's got a huge influence, right? Worth billions, as he puts it. All these franchises, clotheslines, whatever, rapper, whatever he is. He made a comment at one point about his ex, Kim Kardashian. And I thought it was a very interesting input about, you know, what if, and sounds like he thinks that she kind of went a different way. I don't keep track on these little celebrity drama, but he made a point about what if, you know, the greatest, the most popular, in her case, pop star, whatever. I don't even know what does Kardashian do? Somebody tell me, please. I think she sings, right? I don't know. Just say the biggest pop star on the planet. What if they performed for one audience, and that was God? That's a pretty profound statement, right? And he said about how much that would change the world, and it's true. For the most part, what you see, all the Satanism, all the occult within the music industry in Hollywood should be a clear indication of who the God of this world is, right? Who they serve, who they have to serve. As Bob Dylan put it, you got to serve somebody, and to get usually to the top of the dung pile in this world, you have to bow down and worship a fallen angel who is the temporary ruler of this world. If you've looked around, you might have noticed that, you know, this world is pretty screwed up, and there's a reason why. Evil, darkness will descend on this planet like never before in history in the end time. And it is within these times of this great darkness that we need to shine brighter than ever before. As God's people, we need to shine forth His character. You know, do not reflect, be not conformed to this world, as the verse says. You know, reflect God's character. That's my aim. I don't know about yours. Anyway, just some thoughts. I know I've gone over. I talk a lot. Thanks for listening, everybody. Just a little update. Thought I'd keep you all in touch with my thought processes, right? Because there's nothing more important. If I want to start talking like Ye, this beautiful mind, I think he called himself over and over again. I got this beautiful mind, guys. I'm a creator. I'm a conductor. I'm the 5th greatest writer on the planet in the history of mankind. Hopefully you'll never hear that kind of arrogance, ego from me. I try to stay humble. I got a lot of reason to be humble, though, so, you know, it's kind of one of those things. I think there's a reason why it's the meek that inherit the earth, is because they don't have too much to boast about, right? They don't have too much to get high on themselves about, put themselves on the pedestal. You know, they're looking for the true king of the universe, and they got nothing else to put their faith in. And things are gonna get hard, folks. Times are gonna get hard, and I think we're gonna need a real living faith in order to remain standing when literally the ground we stand on is shaking beneath our feet. if you read the book of Revelation. Anyway, just some thoughts. I'm over here at Home Depot. Got to get some supplies. We're doing a little remodeling in the house right before winter. And yeah, I know, perfect time for that, right? Things are expensive as ever, but got to do what we got to do. God bless everybody. Thanks for watching the show. This is Night Watch. Nate, stay safe. Build your faith. Get right with God. Do what you can to get prepared, but let God sort out all the other details that you can't control, and you'll have peace that other people don't. God bless. Night Watch Nate, signing out.